Blog Talk Radio.
There'll be spectacle, there'll be fantasy, there'll be daring do and stuff like you would never see.
Hey, a movie! Yeah, we're gonna be a movie!
Starring everybody
And me. There'll be heroes bold, there'll be comedy, and a lot of fuss that ends for us real happily. Hey, a movie! We can watch it all develop. Starring everybody!
And me. We'll take the world and set it on its ear.
Come on, join in. We're gonna start right here.
And we are going to start right here. Welcome back to the 411 Summer Blockbuster series. I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And this is the Man of Steel post-movie discussion. You wanted the best. Never mind. Of course, and I bring him on for every one of these Summer Blockbuster discussions. He is 411's premier movie review writer. He is the 411 jack of all trades. He's here to save the show, ladies and gentlemen. The Man of Steel himself, Mr. Jeff Harris. How do you do?
Good afternoon, everybody. You can all relax. The Vile One is here. Good afternoon, Mark. Thank you for having me.
Outstanding.
Up and away.
Up and away. That's right. Truth, justice, and the American way. All right, let's get into this. Man of Steel, starring, who is in this movie?
Henry Cavill.
Yes, Henry Cavill.
Michael Russell Crowe.
Amy Adams as Lois Lane. Michael Shannon as Neil before Zod. Kevin Costner in his greatest movie role to date as Jonathan Kent. Diane Lane as an absolutely marvelous Martha Kent. Lawrence Fishburne as a fat Perry White. Russell Crowe as the best Jor-El I've ever seen. Take that, Marlon Brando. And a cast of others. Well, let's get right into this. Now, let me say this before we start this whole podcast. I know this movie has engendered a lot of controversy. And there seem to be two camps that have formed. You've got I wanted the traditional superhero, bright and shiny, colorful, Ronald Reagan and apple pie Superman. And then there was the rest of us that actually pay the fuck attention to things and knew that we were going to be getting a Superman for the 21st century. In that kind of context, more to the point, with Zack Snyder and Christopher Nolan on board to make this thing, you knew you were going to get something not exactly like, but very related to the Nolan Batman trilogy, which was very grounded in reality, as much as you could ground Batman in reality. So you were going to get a grittier, more realistic Superman. And that's, in my opinion, what we got. And to the point, I think it made for a better movie. So having said that, I'm going to ask you, like I always ask you at the start of every show. First, were you entertained? And two, what do you make of these two camps, Mr. Jeff Harris?
I liked the movie. It was a solid movie. It was not better than the Avengers. And let me preface everything by saying there are going to be spoilers in this talk, folks. So,
yes.
Here's your warning now. There are going to be spoilers. This podcast is for people who have either seen the movie and want to hear some discussion about it, or you don't mind hearing about spoilers. So there's your warning right there. Did I like it? Was I entertained? Yes, I was. Did I have a lot of problems with it? Yes, I did. So regarding the two camps, I can kind of see both views. I said in my review that I'm really looking forward to the debate just because I think it's going to be one of those fun sort of like, hardcore geeks versus, the common Joe moviegoer viewpoint of things. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing. Still, I had problems with the movie, and it wasn't that – ultimately, what I saw to me wasn't that different from what we've seen come out of the comics in the last several decades or so. And it wasn't that it strayed too far from me. It was just a couple key elements that were, to me, really, they were grievances and they were borderline unforgivable. I'm not saying I would never see a sequel. The movie obviously did well this weekend, and Warner Brothers is obviously going to try and fast-track the sequel before they do anything else. So I'm glad it did well, and I'm glad, Superman is back. But I still had some major, major problems with this film.
I think you're making a lot of great points. Let me just a couple of quips about what you said. I don't even think you can compare Man of Steel to the Avengers. I think they were thematically two different movies. The Avengers was your popcorn eating, fun at the movie, summertime, jump off the pages of the comic book movie. This was an attempt. Man of Steel was an attempt to take a character who is very flawed. You and I got into a beat 'em up argument over the Hulk. I think I have the same problems with Superman that many people have with the Hulk, problems that you had cited, which is that when you're a god and you can't be hurt by anything, it's very hard to create a sufficient amount of obstacles for your god to conquer.
Mark, let me just correct you really quick. What you're saying is not that Superman is very flawed. What you're saying is Superman virtually has no flaws, which has long been the problem with the character.
Well, yeah, but the point that I was getting to is, as a character, who follows the hero's arc and somebody that people can be invested in, I think people sometimes struggle with the fact that, when you're telling those who have handled him, I should say, sometimes struggle with Superman because what do you give him to do that's going to be intriguing enough for people to follow you for, the length of a 2-hour movie?
Right.
And what I love about
Man couldn't do that.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about Superman Returns. That's a bad movie, club movie. But what I loved about Man of Steel, and what I'm getting to with all of this, is Man of Steel said, forget about Doomsday and Zod and Brainiac and Lex Luthor, and let's just look at Superman the character. What if you're an orphaned alien with godlike powers and you're among humans? Stop. How do you deal with that? What does that entail in the 21st century? And if you just pitched me that idea and didn't tell me anything else, I would say run with it. That, to me, is awesome. And that, I think, is why I'm one of the people on the opposite side of the camp that says this movie was fantastic. It really took, I think, a realistic look at what happens to a person in those circumstances. And the fact that he has to fight an evil general and, all this other stuff takes a back seat to that.
Well, they didn't forget about Zod there, Mark. And also,
no, I'm not saying they did. It just said it took a back seat.
The first act of the movie is all set on Krypton, and it looks like something taken right out of Avatar, basically.
I loved that whole
Avatar too at the beginning.
I love the. Look, the original Superman movie, which we're going to talk about in Long Road to Ruin tomorrow night, I have a special place in my heart for, and certainly, not Orson Welles, Marlon Brando, and the way that whole movie unfolds at the beginning. I don't have any problems with it, but this one set it up very differently, and there was obviously more action, more punch to it, just very different, and I like them both equally. But the point that I want to get to here before we move on is for everyone that's belly aching about, I had a friend of mine who said I liked Into Darkness for all the reasons that I hated Man of Steel, and when I saw the movie with him and he sort of exemplifies for me the opposing camp, and that is that they wanted a comic book movie, which this wasn't. Neither were the Nolan Batman movies.
I disagree with that.
When I see a comic book movie, there's a certain element of frivolity to it. This wasn't frivolous in any way, shape, or form. This was a character study.
Interesting. I'm not sure I agree with that take, Mark. I think it's an interesting point of view, but I just didn't see it here. Just the way they incorporated the fantasy elements and the science fiction elements, and how prevalent that was. It's clearly, it's not. And I liked all that. I like that they put that in there. I like that we had, the little Kryptonian robots and all those and creatures and all those sorts of little elements. So I liked all that was there, but to me it was not less of a comic book superhero movie because of all the characters. I mean, we've seen elements like that in lots of the modern takes on comic book heroes. Even look at Spider-Man 2. Look how lauded that movie was for how deep and introspective it was about Peter Parker and his struggles. I mean, so to me, it doesn't make it less of a comic book movie. To me, that's all part of comics. All these themes and all these stories, these are all already prevalent within comics. And to me, comics are not frivolous. Comics to me are just, it's modern mythology. There's value in art. I mean, look at Watchmen, one of the most celebrated stories ever. Ugh. And it's a story to me. Look, it's a story to me that Zack Snyder was not able to crack, and it's a story he had to dumb down. So in some cases, to me, the comics are even more powerful than film.
I'll give you that. But I think
the character studies. There have been many character studies of Superman in his comic stories, and now that you're getting into comics, maybe you'll become more aware of that, Mark.
Oh, I've been reading comic books for quite some time. I just took a break for a while. But, okay, I guess here's where I was going with this. And I guess I do see your point, and I think it's very fair to say that comic books can be very deep and very heavy and very laden with an examination of characters and relationships without getting into bang, bang, shoot 'em up. And that's fair. Here's where I'm going to voice the opposing camp. A lot of people are having troubles with this movie because they felt like it was out of balance, that there was more focus on Kal-El struggling with his powers on Earth and his role among the humans, and not enough Superman smash. This isn't. If you watch the first movie, the original motion picture, which is like 78, 77, 78, somewhere in there when it comes out, with Christopher Reeve and Gene Hackman. The first time you see Superman really doing stuff, he saves Lois Lane in a helicopter. And, you get to see him do some other fun stuff before the movie takes sort of a turn and he's really challenged. And that's when they throw the kryptonite necklace on top of him. But even at that, he's just running around, he's stopping an earthquake and he's saving a bus and he's doing this and he's doing that. There wasn't a tremendous amount of that once they do the bit where his father, which again, I want to say, very different in this movie how they do Jor-El filling him in on his background than they do in Superman the Motion Picture, which I would recommend watching the extended cut of that. You really see Jor-El interacting with Kal-El. But I think once you got to him getting the suit and him figuring out who he is, you're almost immediately hit with, and here comes Zod. And the rest of the movie is him dealing with Zod, and you have a couple of different
well, that's an hour into the movie, really.
Right. Well, that's my point. And again, I'm not complaining about this, but this is what other people are complaining about, is that it took way too long to get there, and that there was too much time spent with Kal-El/Clark trying to figure out who he was in this world.
If you look at most origin movies, this wasn't a new origin for a character. If you look at most of them, they don't really put on like the definitive costume until about an hour in. So it's really consistent with most stories of this type.
I would agree with you. Let's talk a little bit about performance. Let's talk a little bit about performances. Henry Cavill as Clark Kent, Superman, Kal-El, the Man of Steel. I really enjoyed his performance. I thought it was a little bit more subdued than Christopher Reeve, but I thought it fit well into the story they were trying to tell, where he's caught between two worlds and he's trying to figure out who he is. Christopher Reeve was very much mom and pop apple pie Ronald Reagan. This was not this kind of Superman, and so I thought he fit very well into the role that he was being cast. What do you think of Cavill in this performance?
Let me give you a better view than the mom and pop Ronald Reagan. with Christopher Reeve, there was a strength and there was a maturity that you want Superman to have. He looked and embodied Superman perfectly. For many people, he is Superman. Henry Cavill was a good Superman. He's in great physical shape. He clearly worked hard to get the look right for the role. His performance didn't blow me away, but what he did do well was he had vulnerability. He had a good vulnerability that I liked, and I think that's the highest mark I can give him. He didn't really blow me away in this role, and he didn't really draw me in, and really he wasn't that larger than life big blue that Christopher Reeve was, but he was a solid Superman. Christopher Reeve is always going to be a hard performance to live up to, but Cavill did a good job, and I'm fine with him continuing to play the role for however long. Hopefully he doesn't get tired of it. Hopefully he
maybe they'll link this into a Justice League.
Retire to the Caymans with Gina Carano or whatever.
Let me talk a little bit about the differences in the way the two stories were told. And I want to go back to, if you watch the extended cut of the original motion picture, when Clark gets to the North Pole and he finds or creates the Fortress of Solitude, and he pulls out the green crystal, and he's able to then connect with Marlon Brando, who is Jor-El. What you don't see in the theatrical cut, which is then showed in the extended cut, is about a 10-year gap that he had disappeared for, where Jor-El is tutoring him in everything. And now the way they show it is it's just sort of a shot of space and Marlon Brando just narrating over space. And he's talking about different things. And then when it's finally over, that's where they cut to him in the costume and flying off, and then boom, we're in Metropolis. Which is very so when you're talking about Christopher Reeve and the strength that he embodies, yeah, well, you're also talking about a 33-year-old man. Okay? I would like to think and hope to think that that's what he would look like. That was not the story they were really telling.
That's not how old he was. That's not how old he was back then.
No, they're saying that he's about, if you go back and watch the movie, they're saying he's about 33 when he leaves the Fortress of Solitude and goes to Metropolis. Right. In this movie, I'm not entirely sure how old he is. He's
33.
Oh, is he? Okay.
He's 33 when he puts on the suit.
He had been a drifter up until then, and the whole thing is sort of rushed. But the impression that you get is he may be a 33-year-old body, but he's still kind of a boy in that body. He's still trying to figure things out. And so I like that. I like the fact that up until now, he hasn't known what to do with himself. And he's just sort of this mantle has just been thrust upon him, and he's unsure. He kind of gets it, but he's unsure. And he doesn't even have time to think about it, because the next thing he's got to do is deal with Zod and his impending invasion. And so that's how he fit, how Cavill fit into that and how he performed. I thought it was great. Let's put Jeffrey Harris in that role and say, Jeffrey, your whole life has been this. Suddenly you're going to deal with this other thing, and we won't give you any time to adjust.
Yeah, I'm going to beat up God.
Yeah. So
I'm going to protect my family. I'm going to protect the planet.
So I liked. It was an understated performance.
I'm not going to talk to a priest. I'm not going to talk to a priest. I'm gonna kick some alien tail.
Okay, macho guy. Let's actually talk about that for a second. You brought up the priest, and it wasn't something that I...
And the day the earth stood still, I'm not going to let stupid Klaatu Barada Nikto and freaking Gnort or whatever boss me around and say, what makes you so better? You get to boss us around and say you better stop doing this or else. That's just... then you're basically the same as us. I'm sorry, that's fascist. Screw you, alien. You're done.
Are you done now?
Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, sir.
I'm done.
All right, fantastic. So, I want to talk a little bit about the priest scene since you brought it up, sort of in passing. But somebody else that I know mentioned this, and I didn't key into it when I first saw the movie. It did not ping me in any way, shape, or form. But apparently, it's got some people upset. So as Jeffrey said, at some point Clark goes to see a priest because he's looking for guidance. He's not sure what to do with himself. And there are now people criticizing the movie for its portrayal of religion, its inclusion of religion, and they feel like the director and the writer were pushing religion on the audience because of that scene. Now, my initial take on it was he was brought up in Kansas. He might have had some inkling of being exposed to Christian religion at some point in his life, and it would seem natural to go to a priest under those circumstances. But, maybe I'm too forgiving. What did you think of that? And the criticism therein?
I didn't mind the scene so much as the dialogue was very clunky to me and what was said. The priest does a big cartoony Vince McMahon throat gulp, which was a little silly, and it was silly to me. It didn't ring true to me. It wasn't subtle enough to me. I think he could have gotten the same guidance from a person like his mother. It's not so much that it was a priest in a church, but so much as the way it was staged and the dialogue that was said. They didn't quite get it right, and that's kind of my problem with it.
Okay, I mean, like I said, it didn't ping me one way or the other.
I like the idea of religion, and maybe saying, hey, maybe Clark Kent has an inkling of religion, and he's trying to figure things out. Maybe he would go to a priest. To me, I don't mind that so much as the way it played out.
Okay, and look, you can have a great idea and poor execution. All right, let's talk about Amy Adams as Lois Lane and Michael Shannon as Zod, and then I want to sort of transition into some of the action scenes, and then of course the sin that is committed in the movie. So you did not like Amy Adams as Lois Lane. How dare you, sir? How dare you?
I don't think I said that. I think she's much better than Kate Bosworth, and she's more comfortable in this role. She's a decent Lois Lane. I thought she was amusing. I didn't think she was bad. I think she was being kind of mean to Steve Lombard at the end, but whatever.
I enjoyed her performance as Lois Lane. I think the one thing that aggravates me a lot of these movies is the love interest. The female opposite of the lead doesn't have enough to do. I don't like damsels in distress. I like do something heroines, not do nothing heroines. And Lois Lane throughout the comic book has always been portrayed as somewhat of a tough chick. I felt like that's what Amy Adams brought to the table. I felt like she was a reporter, and she was a hard-nosed, driven reporter. I thought she portrayed that adequately enough. But I love the fact that they gave her stuff to do.
Here was my problem with Lois Lane in the movie, Mark, and it wasn't necessarily Amy Adams' performance. And this is and to me, like, David Goyer is a decent writer, and he has a decent grasp on characters and story, but his stories are always full of plot holes and flaws. And I think my problem is that in this story we had Lois Lane's all over the place. She can be anywhere at every time. It's like, what? Does she have teleportation powers? Like, what is going on here? And that's that's just kind of narrative economy, whatever. But to me, it just was poorly executed, and that's not really Lois Lane's, Amy Adams' fault. It's more on the writing there. She's everywhere at every time, and I'm like, she can't be in all these places so quickly.
I see what you're saying. It's not something I noticed while I was watching. I was more concerned with what are they going to have her doing, because Margaret, what's her face from the original motion picture?
Margot Kidder.
Thank you, Margot Kidder. Starts off as the hard-nosed reporter, willing, to do anything for the story and everything, and then she gets saved by Superman and forget about it after that. She is just one note.
Just like Amy Adams in this movie.
That's the thing. Margot Kidder doesn't solve any problems, doesn't do anything. She's saved, and the one thing she ever does in any of these movies is punch Ursula in the face after she's been turned into a regular human. Amy Adams actually does stuff in this film. She's a part of the resolution. She's the one that comes up with, I think, bombing them with the ship.
Yeah,
it's good enough.
Are all that.
No, there's something else that she does where she's like, I've got an idea that I didn't think necessarily came directly from Jarrell. So
I disagree.
Okay. I mean, we don't always have to see eye to eye. That's why this is called a discussion. But I want to see Lois Lane doing stuff on her own, not necessarily always being so preoccupied. I'm okay that she's in love with Superman. That's sort of that's what you do in these things. And certainly the mental aspect of it all. This God has saved her and focused all of this individual attention on her. All right, fine, that's consistent. But
she was smart. She was smart in I liked how smart she was in this movie. She's not naive. Like she's not like, oh my God, he's got a pair of glasses, I can't figure it out. It's not. She's very smart and she's very modern, and I like that. Yep.
Michael Shannon
but
as
she does
Zod.
Still need to get rescued constantly because she's weak and a damsel in distress. She's still Amy Adams, I'm sorry, no matter what you say, you're still a damsel in distress, and that's fine. We need Superman to save the lover. That's what we want. That's what we want,
But she wasn't completely helpless, is my point. Michael Shannon as Zod. Michael Shannon, first of all, kicks ass on Boardwalk Empire, and it was fun to see him out of that role.
And the Iceman.
It was fun to see him out of that role and as Zod. Some people have said that Michael Shannon completely overacts in this movie and that he's just chewing up the scenery left and right. I think given the gravity of what he's trying to accomplish, I didn't think he was overacting. I thought he was portraying the character as it was written, a single-mindedness to save Krypton. In a way, he's almost a sympathetic villain, but I want to hear some of your thoughts on Mr. Shannon's portrayal of Zod.
I like Michael Shannon a lot. There was a really good movie where he played the Iceman, where he plays a mob hitman. I thought was really good. I think he's got a sort of odd stiffness I can't quite put my finger on. In this movie, it just seems like he goes from 1 to 11 at the snap of a finger, and it's a bit jarring at times. So I can kind of see the whole chewing up the scenery. I enjoyed it. I think he did a good job. Again, he didn't blow me away like say Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus Otto Octavius in Spider-Man 2.
I enjoyed him. Yes. You do love your Marvel movies, I have noticed. And with good reason.
Or
Most
Tom
of them are good.
Hiddleston as Loki.
What I loved about Zod, not only Michael Shannon's portrayal of him, but his motivation and his evil plan all made sense and were consistent. This was sort of my complaint with Into Darkness and my complaint with some of these other movies that have come out over the last couple of years is that the villain's plan is either cockamamie or it's weak or it's just doing stuff because I'm evil. This to me made sense from top to bottom. I want to create Krypton on Earth because my goal in life is to protect Krypton, which presently doesn't exist. And I'm not interested in the puny Earthlings. Perfect.
Right.
Almost sympathetic. You can almost see where he's coming from, except the fact that if you happen to be a puny Earthling, you might feel just a bit threatened. Right. Those are the kinds of villains I really enjoy. I know some people they want their villains to be like Dr. Evil and just over-the-top ridiculous, but I don't know. Maybe it says something about me and my psyche, but I like my fantasy to have some anchor to reality to it. Doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff isn't particularly strong in my opinion. It's something that I say often on Long Road to Ruin in any one of our discussions.
Now, how about how stupid the Kryptonians were in this freaking movie?
Let's talk about that, because they're just as dumb in the original movie.
Listen, Kryptonians. Hey, our planet's about to blow up. We just had a coup d'etat. We're screwed. We got like 2 days left. Okay, let's send out a sentry to arrest General Zod. Well, you know what? Let's put General Zod on trial. Let's put General Zod in a ship and send him into the Phantom Zone. And let's just wait and blow up. Let's put the war criminal on trial while we're about to frickin' blow up and explode. We know we're gonna blow up and explode. This kid just got the codex with the history and DNA of all Kryptonians merged into his body, and he's been sent to Earth. But let's give a trial to the war criminal. Let's put him on a nice, safe little ship, put him in the Phantom Zone, and we'll just twiddle our thumbs until we blow the frack up. Yep, let's do that, Kryptonians. Stupid.
Let me say this: they're just as dumb in the original movie. Every beat was the same.
They're dumber.
No, they're just as dumb. And I'll tell you, this is the one. I mean, it's a quibble, but what is this discussion if not a series of quibbles? In both the original movie and Man of Steel, you have the same really, really sped up beat where you're absolutely right. Both movies begin with, I mean, this movie added a little bit more of Zod trying to take over the government, but let's just start them both in the same place. Zod's trial, which is where we begin with the original motion picture. He's found guilty for treason. They ship him off to the Phantom Zone. Blink, the planet's blowing up. Or rather, Jor-El is telling them the sky is falling, and they say, Jor-El, if you continue to say the sky is falling, we're going to ship you to the Phantom Zone next. Blink. Kal-El's on the ship. He's gone, and the place blows up.
Okay, now here's the thing. This happened again in the 1990s animated series created by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini, and they figured this out. They knew how to fix this, and you knew how they did it. Jor-El was there, and he was telling them we're screwed. And who was the Kryptonian supercomputer, world mind, artificial intelligence, but Brainiac. Brainiac tricked them, and he said, no, we're going to be fine. They listened to Brainiac. Brainiac betrayed them. Brainiac hightailed it out of there and preserved all of the knowledge of Krypton and left. And then Krypton was screwed, and they sent Superman away. So then Brainiac comes back later with all sort of the knowledge and history of Krypton, and it's a great conflict and story. So I'm not saying they needed to copy that, but I'm saying Bruce Timm and Paul Dini, they cracked this and they figured it out and know how to make it work, and yet I don't know, David Goyer and Zack Snyder couldn't. Whatever.
Maybe they're going to do a Man of Steel. Within a year? 401 Mania is reporting.
I can't believe that. I just can't believe they'll have a new movie out next year.
Well, I was going to say maybe they'll base it somewhat on the story you just told, where the untold story of what happened in the last days of Krypton was the central computer of the planet, Brainiac. ...
Well, I mean that would be interesting, but to me, what was good about that, what I was talking about is all this was set up in the pilot for the animated series, and then they call back to it later. That's why they didn't set up Brainiac on Krypton as their supercomputer in this movie.
Right, but I don't think it's a particular weakness of the
Kryptonians were stupid, and then there was this whole thing where Jor-El was like, we created this fascist society, so we kind of deserve to die, which I thought was kind of weird, but okay.
Really? No, I'm willing to buy that. There comes a point, I think, where if you're really honest with yourself, you can face up to the errors that you've made in your life, either sort of on a grand professional scale or as an individual. And some people will never be able to face up to it and will run away and point their finger and blame others, while others will go, I deserve this. I fucked up. I'm sorry, and I am willing to face death like a man. And I think
because because there's always this thing. Superman, he has the power. If he has the power to save people, he will do it, regardless of who they are, where they are, and where they live. If they live in another dimension, it's not another dimension. This isn't really our problem. We're going to do it. We're going to do it anyway. We're going to help anyway because
so that feels like a separate issue than what you just brought up. You know, if the idea was to send him away so that he would grow up uncorrupted by Kryptonian society, I think you're making a valid point. But I don't necessarily think that was his intention. I think that was separate from his idea that Kal-El is pure. He hasn't been a part of this, and we're going to send him away so that he could have a chance at a normal life. While the rest of us are a bunch of idiots who have turned down a path, who have turned down a path where they've hit a dead end. You know, they talked, and by the way, I don't want to get into sort of the politics of it all, but I did enjoy in sort of a snarky way them saying, "Oh, we've used up all of our natural resources." I was waiting for Keenan Ivory Wayans to walk across the screen and yell "message." I really was. I don't know if you get the reference. If you do,
yeah, I saw it. I think that was their way of appeasing the green movement.
Sure. Okay. Last few minutes, and I think you and I are going to have a one of our famous Mark and Jeff knock 'em down, kick 'em arguments. Let's talk about the resolution here, and I want to build up to it.
Are we talking about the big grievance?
Yes. So assuming I know what it is, but so we have our first fight scene with Feora, who was Ursula in the second movie. They've managed to change her name here. Zod's female second. They have the fight with her and Man Bear Pig or whatever the hell his name is.
Christopher Maloney is Colonel Hardy.
No, I was saying the in the second movie.
Oh, the big Kryptonian dude, right?
Yeah. He's got a name that I do not recall, and I've been just jokingly calling him Man Bear Pig. So all right, so they have their fight, and then there's the second fight between Superman and Zod, and it all builds up to everything falls apart for Zod. Zod now, all of his machinations and his plans have been undone by the combined help of the U.S. Army, Superman, and Lois Lane. His whole motivation is to protect Krypton and create Krypton on Earth, and now he can't do it. At this point, he's just mad, and he wants to hurt Superman. And how do you hurt Superman? Well, you can't hurt Superman, so you do the next best thing. You kill humans. And that is what Zod is attempting to do here. And when Superman understands that and realizes it, he makes a choice. A gritty, profound, jarring, jumped out of the movie choice. And that is, he's at a moment where Zod was about to kill an innocent family, slice him and dice him with the heat ray eyes, Superman breaks Zod's neck and kills him. Loved it. It was a Dark Knight moment for me. It was a 21st century Superman moment. I thought it made sense in the context of the scene and in the overall context of the time that we're living in that this movie is supposed to exist. I had no problems with it. Jeff, you're a witness.
Not okay with it. I'm just not okay with it. I can't rectify this. Look, it's not a Dark Knight moment. What happened in The Dark Knight? The Dark Knight, Batman was faced with the Joker. The Joker is falling to his doom, not unlike a certain point in Tim Burton's 1989 Batman. But what does Batman do? Batman uses everything in him to save the Joker. He could have let the Joker fall to his doom. He saves the Joker and leaves the Joker to the authorities. Unlike what Tim Burton did. A lot of people had a problem with the Joker dying at the end of the 1989 Batman movie, and then and Chris Nolan and David Goyer, they did a reversal. They did the exact opposite thing. That was more consistent and faithful to the comics. It's always this sort of odd conflict that why doesn't Batman just kill him? And he just can't. And that's his one rule. His one rule is not to kill. He's not an executioner. He can't. There are so many other reasons Batman doesn't do it because if he feels he starts, he couldn't stop. If he feels, knowing the history with the Joker, this is like after years of history with the Joker, his idea is that he feels if he actually did just end it with the Joker, he feels the Joker would just come back or something even worse would happen. He feels some sort of karma would be delivered on him if he did actually go that far and kill the Joker. This moment I was not okay with. I think this is what Zod wanted, and I think by doing that, Zod essentially won. And the other reason I'm not okay with it was that they were flying around and they were crushing buildings, causing tons of collateral damage. Countless people are probably dead. So that I also had a problem with. At least in the Avengers, there was this modicum of we're trying to limit collateral damage, we're trying to save civilians, and we're trying to limit civilian death, and we're trying to keep the enemies focused on us and away from civilians. I didn't get that in this movie, other than this moment where he saves the family, but he kills Zod. And I feel that's what Zod wanted. He was deliberately fighting so Superman could kill him. And I'm just not okay with that. To me, Zod needed to be punished, but he needed to be punished by continuing to live and sentenced, I don't know, to be either vanquished to the Phantom Zone or somewhere where he could do no harm. Maybe he could get out again later, but it's not Superman. It's not Superman's right to be the executioner, and I'm just not okay with that. To me, Zod won. Zod won by making Superman kill him. Superman should have been able to stop him. I get that he was given an impossible choice. Yada yada yada. They made it dramatic. I see they made it dramatic. I'm still not okay with it. I cannot forgive you for this, Chris Nolan, Zack Snyder, David Goyer. Think long and hard.
I'll tell you, and look, we're talking now about personal preference here, and so you and I are not gonna beat this back and forth, because again, it really comes down to a very subjective feeling about that moment in the picture. The only thing I will tell you is this: Superman is an interesting character, and his dynamic with Batman in the comic books I've always found to be very fascinating. You brought up Batman's code. When you think about Batman, Batman's just a guy. He's kind of like Iron Man. He's a guy with resources and a lot of toys. And he puts this condition on himself. And the reason for that condition is ultimately to prove that, and they say this in The Dark Knight, our way is better. To not kill, to not go outside the law is better than to be an outlaw. What makes, I think, Superman in this context acceptable to have made a choice, and to use your words, to make the wrong choice, is that Superman doesn't necessarily have that code. He doesn't have a code yet. He doesn't know what he is. That was the message of this movie that I got, was this guy is struggling with what he's supposed to be. And no sooner than he's confronted with it, he's got an even bigger problem. And it's kind of like, let me say this. If I'm going to make a comparison, let's get out of comic books for a moment, and let's talk about Frodo. Frodo has the ring, and he's been given this impossible task to go, against all odds, to ditch the Ring of Doom in the fires of Mordor, and in the end he fails. He's not strong enough. But it's a character building moment that he manages to survive and survive from and live with, changes his life forever. I think here's the thing, if they build on that moment with his character and they actually do something with it, they go somewhere with that, I think it'll make the moment even stronger. If it's summarily forgotten about, then it is what it is. But I think this is the beginning of something interesting.
If he struggles with it, maybe they can do something with it. He struggles with it. He has to get past it. It's a big thing. Maybe he says, I killed someone once, never again. Maybe if they did something that calls back and he actually figures out how to avoid a similar result with avoiding not only a family getting killed, but avoiding killing the bad guy, I would probably be okay with that. that might placate me, but still, I'm still just not okay with this because Superman's not a killer, and
Says you.
even if he was upset about it, I'm just not okay with what he did there. So many narratives give us, the impossible choice for the hero, like the impossible choice, tipping the scales, like he has to make an impossible choice, and usually the hero figures out a loophole around it because it's stupid to force him that choice. Spider-Man had that choice, and he was given the impossible choice in the first movie. It's a common recurring theme or story beat. So
Here,
I'm just
hang on
not okay
one second.
that
Let me challenge you on that for a second.
I'm not okay with it.
No, I understand that, and I'm not convincing you should be. But here's the thing, and then we'll move on from this. As you said, in so many movies, the hero has to make an impossible choice, and more often than not, he chooses both. And there are no stakes, there are no consequences. Batman saves Vicky Vale. Batman saves Dr. whatever the fuck her name is, and Robin at the same time. Spider-Man saves Mary Jane and whatever. It just goes on and on and on.
Meridian.
Thank you. Chase Meridian. It's the hero never has to face the consequences of his actions because he succeeded 100%. And for me, while it's fun to watch, that's not dramatic. This was dramatic. You can say he made the wrong choice, and that's valid, but still, there's a consequence here. There's dramatic stakes. For once,
we'll see.
The Man of Steel in that moment was penetrated and bled.
Now. He's an executioner now.
Maybe he isn't. We'll see.
He is. Listen, if Batman would not tolerate it in the comics, if Superman did that and Batman found out, Batman would not tolerate this. Batman would be like, "We're done. We're done as friends. We're done as friends. We're no longer associated. I'm going to take you down. I'm gonna make sure you never do that to anyone else." That's what Batman would do.
But that's the juicy, dramatic stuff that I want to see in movies.
That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. We're not going to see. When Justice League starts, we're not going to see Batman go, Superman, I'm not okay with you killing Zod, so I'm going to come after you, and I'm going to beat you up with a kryptonite pinky ring, and make sure you never execute anyone else. That's not going to happen.
That'd be awesome if it did, though.
It would be. I'm just saying this is how it would work, but this is not how it's going to work on film, is what I'm telling you.
All right,
and this is why you're wrong, Mark.
Yes, I'm always wrong in your eyes, Jeff. All right, real quick, shut up, you. Listen, we didn't talk a lot about Diane Lane or Kevin Costner. I
love their performances.
They were wonderful, weren't they? So there were some people
I want Kevin Costner should be like everyone's father.
Some people were criticizing early on Kevin Costner as as Jonathan Kent, saying maybe you should have let the busload of kids die in order to maintain your identity, your secret identity, and protect yourself and protect this family. What did you think of that?
I think the scene where he dies was a little melodramatic, especially leaving the dog in there like that, I thought was especially cruel. I think it was a little, the scene was a touch melodramatic for me, but I didn't really mind the scene so much. And I thought Kevin Costner was great.
I really, really enjoyed Diane Lane. The woman who plays Martha Kent in the original motion pictures, she was fine. She wasn't particularly strong. She was just there. Diane Lane, I thought, had a pretty juicy part, and I thought played her role well. Was not particularly moved one way or the other. He was just there. Lawrence Fishburne is Perry White, but then Perry White doesn't have a tremendous amount to do up until the end of the movie. I enjoyed the sequence with the assistant who's buried underneath rocks and he's trying to save her. Another moment where minor characters are given stuff to do, which I thought was great. You know, and too often.
And the woman was Jenny Olsen.
You've said that now 3 times.
You won't acknowledge it.
It is so acknowledged. Jenny Olsen.
Jimmy, who was formerly Jimmy Olsen of the comics. They made Jimmy.
You know,
I
didn't even make that connection. Good pickup. I didn't know who the hell she was. She was just there. But too often in these movies, the minor characters are just sort of window dressing for the hero to do everything. And I think that ultimately is part of the reason why I've liked this movie so much. Everybody has stuff to do without it turning into Pirates of the Caribbean where everyone has a plot line.
You know, I thought that was good to kind of just see like what was going on with the people in Metropolis, just to kind of raise the stakes a little. So again, Superman just didn't really seem to care about Metropolis at all when he was fighting Zod, I have to say.
Well, he hadn't been a resident of Metropolis yet.
Or that small town in or Smallville, Kansas, for that matter.
You know, what I like about all of this though is you're sitting here and you're sort of Monday morning quarterbacking, you know, poor Superman's decisions here, but these are great experiences to learn from as a hero. He may come out of this going, I can't wreck cities, I can't wreck small towns, I can't kill people. I've made so many errors in my first week of Superman, I now know I've got to make some changes. Great! That's the hero's arc! You realize you've got to make changes. Look, it's great that you recognize all that, Mark, but that's not going to happen once Man of Steel comes out. That's not in there. Man of Steel 2, you mean?
That's not going to be addressed. You're looking into this too much, and to the filmmakers, these are minor details that you overlook and that you just don't care about. You know,
9 out of 10 times I would agree with you.
The civilians of Metropolis and Smallville were cannon fodder.
You know, again, 9 out of 10 times I would agree with you. And if we were having this discussion of all 5 Man of Steel movies years from now on the long road to ruin, I would be looking back going, God, I hate the executives at Warner Brothers, because I've said that now a number of times when in discussing Batman. But I can have hope, okay? The sign on his chest means hope, Jeffrey Harris, and I have it.
So, you know, I have hope too. Look, I didn't dislike the movie, and I want to see what they do with the sequel.
Yep, we shall see. I would expect that. I don't think they can do another movie without Lex Luthor.
Well, we know Lex Luthor exists in this world. We did see one visual reference to LexCorp with the tankers, so with the gas trucks. So it's inevitable, I would say.
So if this follows the Nolan trilogy arc, I suspect the next one will have Lex Luthor, and the third one will have Doomsday. And Doomsday will break Superman's back midway through.
I mean, it's hard to look at where they'll go with this, because David Goyer and Zack Snyder are now talking about Justice League. Warner Brothers clearly wants to make that. They probably won't make it by 2015, but you know, David Goyer is saying that Superman will inspire other heroes to be or people like him to become heroes now, and things of that nature. So I assume Warner Brothers is, now that this movie is out, it's a success, they're probably going to want to make it more like Iron Man 2 and make it like their precursor to Justice League. And I think rather than Doomsday, I think really the best route is Apocalypse and Darkseid.
I would agree with you. I feel like they need to reboot Batman, because the Nolan's Batman doesn't fit into this universe.
It will be Batman will be rebooted. David Goyer has already said, which you can read on our site, that it will be a different Bruce Wayne. So it won't be Christian Bale. Sorry all the haters, sorry all the idiots who believed Latino Review and El Mayimbe when he said that they're bringing back Christian Bale and everybody for Justice League. It ain't happening, folks.
Well, I don't think he would fit very well.
Fiction.
I feel like, now, are they going to include the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern, or is that going to be a thing of the past?
It's got to be a thing of the past. In fact, quite frankly, it should be Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart as Green Lantern?
Yes.
If you say so.
You can't. You need some diversity in this group. You know, I don't think it can just be all these white people. You need to have some diversity. I'm serious. You need to have some diversity here. I think Hal Jordan, he had his trial run, and he failed. I think we need to try something different now.
Okay. I'd like to see a Wonder Woman movie.
John Stewart is a great character.
He's a great
character. He's a likable character.
I'd like to see a Wonder Woman movie. I would love to see actually a Wonder Woman movie that has Aquaman and have a war between the Amazonians and the Atlanteans. I think that'd be awesome.
That would be funny. But besides that, I think look at the Justice League animated series. I think Bruce Timm understood that we needed some more diversity, and they put in Jon Stewart. It was a controversial choice, but it was a choice that worked.
Okay. I wasn't even aware of that. I didn't watch the show. All right, Jeff.
Look, we're talking about things that are way down the line anyway.
Sure.
That that these discussions are way down the line anyway. So
absolutely.
It's probably so. The next thing, I think, all we really know now is that they're going to try and get Man of Steel 2 out as soon as possible.
Yep. All right, Jeff. Great discussion as always. I think.
Yeah.
Monsters University, I'm willing to do, but not this week, not next week, because my family will be in Texas. Your old stomping ground.
We could probably double up Monsters University and the Lone Ranger.
I'm liking that plan. The wife has already given me permission to go out and see Lone Ranger if she's not going to come with me or we can't get a babysitter. So we'll do Monsters University and the Lone Ranger, all around the same time. I think that'll be a fun podcast.
And our exclusive review of Monsters University by yours truly is coming out later this week. So be on the lookout for that in the Movie Zone.
Okay, what else you got going on, Jeff?
3Rs, the MMA's 3Rs will be coming up looking at basically the Batman and Robin of UFC shows for the year with UFC 161. Also, more E3 stuff is coming up, so be on the lookout for that in games. And a couple of special interviews, the screenwriter of Pacific Rim, big movie coming out next month, and the story supervisor for Pixar, Kelsey Mann, for Monsters University. So be on the lookout for that as well.
We are definitely going to be doing a Pacific Rim podcast. I didn't realize I'm not much of a game player for a variety of reasons, though I am going to get around to playing Injustice this weekend. Yeah, exactly.
You don't got time to play video games.
Something's got to give. But so I didn't play Pacific Rim or anything like that. But when I saw what Pacific Rim was, which is essentially giant robots versus giant monsters, I'm like, I'm in. I'm going. So
yep.
When that comes out, we will definitely have a fun podcast on monsters versus robots. Fantastic. All right.
Really?
So that's what Jeff's got going on. Robert Winfrey hosted the last two 401 Ground and Pound shows. I will be back this Sunday in the host chair. He did a fabulous job, and I am grateful that he was able to do that. The Long Road to Ruin returns tomorrow night. This is Superman week. So today we did our Man of Steel discussion, and tomorrow night, the big 2 to 3 hour podcast roundtable. Robert Winfrey, Robert Cooper, my co-host Sean Comer, and I will discuss all 4.5 to 5 of the original Superman movies. That was now, what do you say? The fifth one. Which one are you talking about? The Donner Cut, because I don't count Superman Returns. So all 4.5 Christopher Reeve movies, including the Donner Cut, which was really kind of its own movie. We will be having a great podcast at length discussing those 4.5 movies tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. I'm sure this week I'll be back on the Casual Heroes, so check out many of the podcasts that I do with them on MMA and wrestling, and now starting hopefully soon we'll be doing a movies one, thecasualheroes.com. Thursday nights at 9 o'clock on FromTheRightRadio.com is The Right Hook, where John Brodigan and I skewer the news. A week from Tuesday, the 411 Music Zone podcast resumes with our second look at the last 7 albums of Megadeth. Fantastic. And then the week after that is the Jurassic Park trilogy. Every Sunday night, again, 9 o'clock, the 411 Ground and Pound radio show. And this week, Wednesday night, Bellator returns, the summer series. And I will be back in the coverage chair as I got out of covering everything that happened in the last 2 weeks. But, I got to do my part here, so I'll be covering Bellator this Wednesday. So, for Jeffrey Harris, this is the 411 Summer Blockbuster Series Man of Steel post-movie discussion. Be well, be safe, and behave.